regards to the annual meeting on April 14th, 2020, I have a draft agenda indicating basic items that are required to conduct business by the Illinois statute for the annual meeting. Additionally, the Board of Trustees are provided 3 separate petitions requesting various items for consideration to be included on the meeting agenda. We received a petition from Mr. Steve Ballage, Ms. Stan Holtz, and Mr. Tom Pelican. The Board of Trustees shall adopt an agenda for publication. The agenda published by the Township Board shall include any such requests made by voters if the request is relevant to the powers granted to the electors under the Township Code. So I'm asking the Board now to discuss and make a motion to approve what they would like on that agenda.
Does each item have to be voted on, or is it done in the whole? The petition? Is some curiosity?
Probably vote on the individual items.
Each individual item?
I would think that would be most appropriate. Some may be.
There's a lot of items on these,
Oh, you
on
mean
these
like-
agendas, so I mean,
Like the numbers.
Well, you could collectively make a motion as to certain items.
So like for petition number 1, Mr. Ballard, you could, I think what you're saying, Jerry, is if you wanted to approve 1, 3, and 5, or however you wanted to work it.
Yes, or not.
yeah, I mean, it seems, I understand, that's what I was asking, I understand, just that there's a lot of things on all these petitions here that's gonna keep, okay, I get it.
So maybe start with Mr. Ballard, please.
Well, yeah, we're gonna, you know, because that's the way it's listed here anyway. Well, there are just so many.
There's repetition in the petitions too.
Well, I mean, I'm just wondering if it would be better just approving all the items and then just go through it at the annual meeting. Because it's not, I mean, just to start picking 1, 3, 5, or 10, and 12, because there's a lot of stuff here. A lot.
But it's up to you if you want to make a motion.
Well-
What do you want to do?
I just like to say, in these petitions, a whole lot of what's in these is not allowable to the electors. It's not, they don't have anything to say about it. So, just to do a mass approval of things that the electors aren't allowed to approve or disapprove makes it a waste of time. And especially, you know, start with the Ballage one. A bunch of what is on here has already been done.
Well, I've noticed that. I mean, so it's really kind of irrelevant if we just approve it all in one batch.
Well-
Because it's already, it could be addressed at the annual meeting as being, this is already done. So it's kind of a moot point, you know. When this petition came out from Mr. Ballage, you know, we were already in the works with the Knox boxes per se. I mean, so I know that's been done, which is on his agenda. So I mean, honestly, if we just go ahead and approve
Well,
the items just in general, we can start, at the meeting, we can start, okay, this has been done, this has been done, this has been done.
well, this is to be approved by the board,
Right.
not by the
I know.
electors. I mean, something like, on Mr. Balich's number 3, we can only serve a 2 4-year terms or 8 years maximum. That's not by, the electors have nothing to say about it. It's state statute. Most of what the electors can do is given to us in state statute. And from what I can see in,
And even the town board, we could not do that. That is the state law. They set the terms of the offices. We can't set the terms of the office. So if you have this stuff voted on at the annual town meeting, I believe it was Jennifer that criticized the last time, stating that if it was advisory, why did you let us vote on it?
Right, I remember.
And if it's advisory, we can't accommodate because we don't set state statute.
I think your discussion is warranted, but I think it should be on April 14th, not today.
We are not in, on April 14th, the only official that is there present in their official capacity is the clerk.
Right now, you're voting to allow those 3 petitions to be.
I believe the statute says that we are voting to allow agenda items if they are within the authority of the electors.
I would just inject this at this point, is the statute provides that the town board will make the agendas for the annual town meeting. And agenda items are generally pursuant to petitions such as we've received 3 here. However, it also says that the items that you approve should be relevant to the powers that are granted to the electors. Now, it becomes a little bit more complicated after that because there may be some issues that are debatable, but most of the issues clearly are not relevant to the powers granted. And it would serve little purpose to approve those items and subject to time and debate when they're actually kind of meaningless.
Well, I understand, I do understand that. That's why I was kind of asking, because, you know, I know Ms. Holtz's petition isn't long, I mean, there's a couple.
Yeah, but it's duplicated too, so if we
Right,
just
that's
say
what I
on,
was just gonna say.
yeah, if we say on ballots which ones do you suggest not to, is really gonna be irrelevant to the meeting? I mean, technically. There's 12 items on here, one of these we did last year, and it took 3 hours for one discussion. So what happens with 12 of them? You're here all night. And most of them are irrelevant to the election.
And the voters
Yeah.
actually did not approve, and so now it's back again.
Right.
Wait a minute, the voters did approve unanimously to videotape.
The
all
special
township
meeting.
meetings.
We're talking about
Special
the
meeting.
use, we are talking about, and the videotaping is not within the authority of the electors. And, no, it is not. And the other thing is,
So it's not in the
what
authority
we
of the
are
voters?
talking
Or any
about,
other township?
excuse me,
Excuse me, point of order.
what we were talking about before you interrupted was number 1, which is the property, no property can be used for an event center, which was defeated at the special meeting in October. Now it appears again. That was the subject of this discussion.
So to answer your question as to what my opinion would be this, that item number 1 talks about the use of township property. And when you look at what the statutes provide and what the case law has said, it becomes a very fact-specific kind of question. And I think that township property in general may be treated differently than open space property. So, because there is some debate about that, I certainly would allow number 1 to go. Numbers 2 through 12 are simply not within the authority of the electorate, and therefore I would not place those on the agenda item.
So the only one we would, I mean, what you're suggesting, the only one would be number 1, right? Because
That
everything
would
else
be
is
my
2 through 12 is irrelevant. We don't have the power as a board.
So now as we go to the Holt petition, that same item is listed as number 1 on
Right.
the Holt petition. But then item number 2, which is the annexation,
That's,
that
again,
is not.
that's not something that the electorate has the authority.
With the annexation?
Yes.
So actually, there's no sense in repeating number 1, they're verbatim, the same, number 1 of Mr. Balich and number 1 of Ms. Holt. Then we go on to Mr. Fion's, and that is clearly identified in the statutes as a power of the electorate. And that is, shall the Homer Township Board, in accordance with its open space program, pursue grant funding without increasing or adding any new real estate taxes for the purpose of constructing a multi-purpose pole barn style structure to be used for educational, environmental, recreational, and social community activities. And the petition asks that this go to advisory referenda at the next election, which will be November. And then this way, it's not one of those things where people just keep bringing something up at a meeting. The electors would have a chance to vote. There's number one and this are basically similar, except one covers all the township property. This one is only for open space. As the board is authorized to make all the decisions for open space, but rather than let the board make the decision, the public can vote on it. So I personally am in favor of Mr. Keon's, and it is a clear right within the elector for the statute.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve number 1 on Mr. Ballots' petition, eliminate the rest of them. Nothing with Ms. Holtz, because they're irrelevant to the electors and they're duplicated. And then also Mr. Fians, allow that one. We have 2 items on the agenda, that's my motion.
We have a motion, a second. Unfortunately, because there were questions, we did have discussion out of the motion, but is there anything brief from the board at this time? Hearing none, I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Trustee Kalis,
Yes.
trustee Kruzak,
Yes.
trustee Fian,
Yes.
trustee Alpert,
Yes.
supervisor Myers,
Yes. Motion carries. All right, let's move on. Go on to the supervisor's report.